Howdy doody. So we have our basic, we have our basic, a basic rig here, and all that we're doing here is we're just parenting. So I'm just going to show you how to parent very quickly and simply. In the next one, and this is going to be using curves and 3D boxes. So this example here as well. So, and then also, if we are wanting to use the stop motion keys on this, it's really simple. So, for example, in meshes, if we're wanting to go into sculpt mode, I'll just turn off my lock here. So if we wanted to go into sculpt mode, we can see here these boxes are on the Y, and I'm going to be rendering from the front view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a key. This is going to be my rest position, so I'm going to add a key here. And then I think I'm going to add another key, and then this is where I want my motion to start taking place. So I'm going to hit G, find my grab key down here. There we go, so we can see that's my grab key. And then what I can do is I can pull that back. And if I actually insert a key before I pull it back, it will be a lot better. So now let's pull this back. Okay, so now we can see we have our motion blur happening at a geometry level. Okay, so you can hand sculpt your motion blur. We might put another stop motion key in here and just go into edit mode. And I'm just gonna leave a trail of these objects behind. Okay, so now we've got something that's a little bit more fun. Okay, so basically that's the stop motion, but what we're going to be looking at really is how do we parent stuff together. Okay, so let's just take a look at our curves, and what we want to do is we just want to work out what is this hierarchy actually doing. And we can see here it's just like 1, 2, 3, it's all stepping down, right? And then here you can see there's 2 curves under this particular object. So we can see the number 2, and then we can see the curve. All right, so I'm just going to recenter my origin, go into full screen by hitting Control Space, and then Shift A, and I'm going to create a curve. Okay. So I want to switch this out to a 2D object, and then I want to give it a fill. And I'm going to rotate this on the x-axis 90 degrees. So I'm going to hit RX 90. Okay, and I'll just give this a quick material. So let's see if we can find our red. There it is. Sorry guys, I've been talking a lot. And because I've been talking so much, I am losing my voice. Okay, so at the moment we have a single object, a single red circle. All I'm going to do now is I'm just going to duplicate it. So let's just call this R1, R2. And the way parenting works is really simple. You're going from child to parent, but think about it not in that aspect. Think about it from what you want to parent to, because that's going to be your last active object, and that means it's going to be the object that is the most brightly selected. So this really bright orange, and you can see there's a really dull orange color around this. If I make it stand out, give this a blue color. So here you can see there's a darker orange, a bright orange. So that means that this is the active object. So all we want to do is Control P, and we just go parent object. And you can see here in the outliner, it's jumped. So one more time. So I'm going to select the active object, Control P, and it's parented. Okay, so that's it really simply. If you're doing it from the outliner, you're going to grab your object that you want to parent to, and you're going to drag it over the current object that you want, and you can see a menu pops up just as you're dragging it. It says Control to link or Shift to parent. So let's hold Shift and hold it over the icon and parent. And so now our R1 object is controlling our base object. And so as we rotate that on the Y, we can see it's controlling it. And just to give this a little bit of, so we can see that it's actually rotating. So V for vector, right? And it's going to give us that menu. So if I select this now and I rotate on the Y, we can see it's rotating that object. Okay. And basically that's parenting. Everything after that is just keyframing. So really simply, we are gonna add a keyframe here and then keyframe here. Okay, and because we have our auto key turned on just down here, so we're just gonna have it come to there, right? And basically we want to do a bit of an overshoot. So let's duplicate our keyframes here by holding Shift D. Shift D, select those keyframes at the summary level and duplicate it over. And if we come back to frame 10, we can actually generate our overshoot. So there you go. There's our overshoot. Now we want this next ball to actually react. So what we want to do is we want to kind of leave it behind. And this is where our stop motion pin frame might come into play. So what we can do is we can set a pin frame here. And now we know, okay, we know we want a keyframe at this level. So let's add a stop motion keyframe here, stop motion keyframe here. And I think one at 15, right? So they're all our major keyframes and we have a pin frame. So what we want to do is we want to create a bit of drag. And all I'm going to do is I've pinned my frame and I'm just going to drag it back to there like that. And if I control click on my pin frame, it's just going to remove that information. So we can see here now we have this drag. And I'm not using the rotate at all on this, right? So you can see here I haven't rotated this object. So I'm just using pure principles of animation. So we just have our drag. And then here, this is where we want to create our overshoot. So I'm going to put a pin frame here. And I'm just going to move this object back. I'm just going to put this in the front view and lock the viewport. And I'm just going to put that back into its current position. So here we have now our overshoot. So it's going to overshoot here. So we're just looking at the yellow keys, right? Just looking at the yellow keys, overshoot, and then it comes back to a settle. And I'm just going to drag the settle out a little bit past the 15. So there's that delay. So if we take a look at our first one, we've got it on 0, 10, 15. And then what we're doing is we're getting our delayed reaction here. And we did that by getting a pin frame and considering the spacing and then altering it. And then we've got our overshoot and our settle. Okay, so really simple. And in here, we can see we have added our 3 blank keyframes. And what we're wanting to do is we're just wanting to add a keyframe pretty much in here that's going to act as our, what do you want to call it? Our motion blur. So I'm just going into edit mode and I'm just going to drag this key out And because this key is already selected, there's not too much for us to worry about. I mean, because it's already created, sorry. So that should update. And it's not updating, so maybe it's a bug. Okay. Maybe we've got a bug. Okay, so let's just drop that key. We do have a bug. Oh. Okay, so here we have our motion blur. And we want it to kick in pretty early. So maybe not that early. And so we're going to get to our overshoot to this position. And then we're going to settle. So if we watch it play back now, and for fun, I like to do this just because we can, right? We can add an extra object in here. I'm just going to go insert. So we start off there, and now we have 2 objects. Then it's going to jump back to 1. Just for fun, I'm just duplicating that object by holding Shift D. And I'm going to select these last 2 points, and I'm going to convert this to free, just to give us a little nice kind of motion blur. L is going to help me select that object. I don't want this to go too far. I want us to just feel the overshoot vibration. Okay, so, and it didn't work because we have to, because we have that bug. So Shift D one more time, just go into free mode, just do it really quickly and just make sure that it's working. Okay, so here, right, okay, there we go. So basically what I did is I duplicated those keys and I didn't mark them out, right? And so basically here I had 2, and then here I had, if I duplicate this key, you'll notice in my index ID, when I get to that key, it reads 2 as well. It's just something to keep an eye on. And it's like this with all keys, like all animation software. If you make a clone key of something, it is going to, it's going to make a statement on your work. And if you don't pay attention to it, it's not going to be a good thing that it's trying to tell you either. Okay, so we've got our vibration. And it jumps back to normal. Right, so we just feel it just for a moment. It's probably too much, but you get the idea. So basically that's animating and setting up a basic parent rig in this one. The next one, what we're going to do is we're going to look at setting up a constraint using the curves and what you need to consider. But just really quickly, before we go, if we just put this into a new collection, we'll call this curve rig 2. The parenting actually works the same with any kind of object, right? You're always thinking about that last object. So if I just shift duplicate this, and I'm just gonna find out, let's just pick a color. So these are our mesh objects that we had. And all we're doing is just Control P and object. And we can see here now, same thing, our auto key is turned on. If we move this into position, come back here, move it into our next position, steal our keyframe, Shift D, and now we can just create an overshoot at frame 10. We have exactly the same thing with meshes. So at this position here, basically what I can do is I can set my my timing. So I can set a keyframe here and a keyframe here, and now basically because I'm using my pin frame, I can decide how much I want to offset this information by. So I'm just going to offset it, and then in here what I want to do is I want to put my overshoot. So I might just push this keyframe here, so, and then offset it that way. So it's really a really simple way of working, just setting up really basic rigs. The other thing that you want to take into consideration is the pivot points as well. Like, where do you want to set your pivot point? So like, for example, now that I went into edit mode and I selected the entire object, so edit mode, and I'm just pressing A on the keyboard, basically I'm just moving it up like this. So now if I wanted to add a little bit more action to this, I can just put a bit of rotate on it. And now I can put a little bit, so I can keyframe it here. So I on the keyboard, lock right. And then here I'm just gonna give this a little bit of extra rotation. So this is basically like your holding edge in geometry, right? When you're modeling, you're coming through and you're saying, hey, I want to hold this information here. So that's my holding edge. And now this is going to be my overshoot. If we remove these keyframes, basically what comes through is you get this really slow, mushy kind of animation. So basically, just put in our holding keyframe, and then we can throw these guys around as much as we want. And if we want to continue that rotation, so I'm just duplicating that keyframe, I can just come in, I can just rotate this one. So we just get like this double overshoot. There you go. So same principle works. It works with principle of parenting, works with any object in Blender. So yeah, that's it. I'll see you in the next one.